But Trump gets reelected, what?
And cities burned.
I'll straight up get armed.
The gulags and the persecution of the kulaks and things like that are exaggerated.
It is unfortunate that we have to make plans for extreme action. We don't want to scare people off, so you kind of got to feel it out first before you get into the crazy stuff like Antifa. You're talking about the yellow vests.
It's going to take militancy, and if necessary, just destroy property.
I think it's also fair to point out that when we were in Moscow, for example, people here also were extremely impressed by their public transportation system.
Meet Daniel Taylor and Mason Baird, both field organizers for the Sanders campaign in South Carolina, and the next two subjects of our undercover investigation of extreme radicalism inside the Sanders campaign.
I canvassed with someone who's like an anarchist, and I canvassed with someone who's more of a Marxist-Leninist, and so we do we attract radical, like truly radical people to the campaign, but that's obviously not like outward-facing sort of.
Right. And Bernie, does he know that?
Well, I think the goal is just to build a coalition of people, and a lot of those people who do that kind of work are their politics fall well outside of the American sort of norm. So they're Marxist-Leninists, they're anarchists, they're these types of folks, and they have more of a mind for direct action, for engaging in politics outside of the electoral system.
Like here we think of, gulags being sent off to Russia, to Siberia, and like lock you up, throw away the key. And they were saying that is such a misconception. They're like re-education camps. Mm-hmm. Do you know anything about that?
Pardon me.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think at least my reading of kind of that Cold War era is that you had two massive, you had these huge opposing ideologies and empires and superpowers, and when you have that much power, each side is going to do everything it can to control a narrative and to sort of have its own truth. To support its sort of power structure and things like that, and so I think that if we pay attention to the lived experience of people in post-Soviet states and in Russia and things like that, then we do find that like a lot of the stories we're told in the United States about the gulags and the persecution of the kulaks and things like that are exaggerated. I think there were certainly excesses and certain our own American empire has its own excesses, of course. So I think I think that it's probably exaggerated on our side, and maybe there's also a little bit of over justification or excuses for the excesses that probably did occur, but we certainly don't have a straight perspective on that stuff here in America.
This hasn't worked. We've tried it for 3 years. He's still there, and he gets stronger.
Well, for me personally, I have no problem going all in on the campaign stuff because you are planting a seed. You need people to understand that the things that we're fighting for are things we should have had all along. But for a lot of people, it seems extreme because it never has been. A lot of the social programs that we're pushing are things that other countries have had for a long time, but we've never had. Like the whole socialist thing 4 years ago was a lot more toxic than it is today. I think people are finally starting to realize that maybe it's not such a bad thing.
What's troubling is Baird and Taylor both speak of the possibilities of extreme violence coming from the Sanders campaign and want to keep it hush-hush in order, quote, not to scare people off, unquote.
You all look so mild-mannered, but boy, you've got fire in your belly, don't you?
Well, I think, we don't want to scare people off. So you kind of got to feel it out first before you get into the crazy stuff. But
what kind of crazy stuff? Tell me.
We were talking about, more extreme organizations and stuff like Antifa. You're talking about the yellow vests and all that. But we're kind of keeping that on the back burner for right now.
Do you think that when Bernie's elected and now you've got all those Trump people, and we're talking, I mean, that was a pretty tight split. So you've got almost half the country that are haters. How are you going to tame that beast? What are you going to do with them? I mean, you need something really radical. What you're proposing is great, and I agree with you. The best thing is by example, but that takes forever. I mean, these people are angry.
Yeah.
They're not gonna.
Yeah, I mean, it is a huge source of anxiety for me. So it's like that's definitely.
But I think we have to think in those ways, right?
Absolutely, and it's with my family too. I mean, it's like within my family that I have this kind of
Trumpites
confronted by that kind of stuff, and not even explicitly Trump people, just that they if push came to shove, they would go that way. That is, it's sort of, it's going to take, it's going to take militancy.
How do we do it?
Militant labor movement, is kind of our last real kind of chance before we try other
means,
and I just don't see it as that. An empire's never been sort of toppled through internal struggle, so it's like I don't really see that working out,
Where do we have all this momentum? Where do we go after it's over, regardless of the outcome? Because I feel like change is not going to happen easily, regardless. Even if Bernie is elected, change will not come swiftly or easily. So we have to, the connections that we're making now within the campaign and with other volunteers and at events, it's very important that we retain that, regardless of the outcome. And, it is unfortunate that we have to make plans for extreme action, but like I said, they're not going to give it to us. Even if